Hi, everybody. This is Carmela from Carmela's Rasslin Radio, Relived. I'm here with my bestie, Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie. How are
Hi,
you, beautiful?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's getting close to Christmas. We're so excited about Christmas, and Jeannie and Nicholas and my friend Debbie, our friend Debbie, and my daughter and me and my daughter's boyfriend Brandon. We're all going to be together for Christmas, and I love that. This is
Yeah.
my family of choice. We're together for every holiday, and
Yes.
that works for me. Um, Before we bring on the stars of the show, I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple wrestling things that are going on. I was just telling Jeannie that we were reading about Ric Flair now having more financial troubles. Somebody apparently owes him $2,000, I think he said, but it was like $1 million deal or something that he got screwed on. And he
Yeah.
doesn't want to mention the guy's name because he doesn't want to be involved in a lawsuit. I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to mention his name. Um, but Ric Flair is no stranger to having money problems, none
Right.
at all. Okay, I wanted to talk real quick about AEW. AEW is now, I think, come the beginning of the year, they're going to have all their pay-per-views, all their collisions, and all their dynamites on Max. The events will happen after the live events, not on the same time as the live events. So I'm beyond excited, beyond excited. Will Ospreay lost this Wednesday night to Darby Allin, which was a terrific match. I know they want to put Darby Allin over, so he lost. But went on Twitter and he's like apologizing to the fans. He's like, I'm so sorry if I didn't live up to what you thought. Thank you for supporting me. I'm doing my best, and that just makes me love him even more. So, and I contacted him on Twitter. I wrote back and I said, I mention you on my show almost every week, so I want you to know I love you, Will Ospreay. Okay. Also on NXT, Obafemi is back, and he came out and he did his little walk. I love that he did it. And he's so freaking cute. I can't stand it. Okay, so that takes care of that. We're going to talk real fast about May 3rd. Okay. Don't forget May 3rd. We have a big show coming up. Um, it's going to be awesome. Bay's not here tonight, but he'll be here next week. So next week we're going to update you on everything, all the matches, everything. If you want to buy tickets, go to 2300arena.com. It's going to be a really, really, really good show. There's going to be a ton of people there,
Yeah.
a ton of stars, old and new. Okay. Also, from what Bay says, Rock and Roll Express also said that this is going to be their last match. So
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
going to be a lot of endings on May 3rd. Uh, Breaker Morant, Tony Stetson, Rock and Roll Express, final matches. So make sure that you go. And make sure that you sign the banner. According to Bay, I think we only need like 200 and something more signatures. When we post the radio show, or I call it the radio show, but when we post it, um, please know that Bay will post the link for the signing. So make sure you sign. All right, no further ado. Let us talk. Tonight we're supposed to have the three best indie referees ever. We have two right now. We're going to start the show anyway. One of them, named John Finnegan, is having trouble with his laptop. So I told him when he gets it fixed, he could just sign on anyway. But right now, let us introduce first and foremost, somebody who used to be our fan club member. A lot of people who used to be our fan club members have gone on to bigger and better things. We welcome Joe Zanolle. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Yay.
Hi,
Nice
ladies.
to
How are
see
you?
you. Good,
Good.
good, good to see you. How's everything?
Good. Yeah, I was a fan club member. I don't know if you remember. My mom
I
used to bring
do.
me to Newmarket for the radio show,
What?
and went on trips with you guys to Memphis, which was I'm a big Elvis fan like you, so that was
Oh my God, I love Elvis.
that
Isn't
was
that
something.
crazy? Your
Yeah, glad
mom
they
used to
got.
bring you to our show.
Yeah, yeah.
How
So
old am I? Oh my God. That's
yeah.
crazy. All right, we'll keep that inside there, buddy. We're going to go to our next referee,
Okay.
who is the second best, or one of the three best indie referees. Let's welcome Jim Molineux. Hi, how are you, Jim?
I'm doing
Yay.
great. How's everybody doing?
Good, good. So
Good.
far, so good. As
Yeah,
I said, we're
you
waiting
didn't
for
mention that
John.
I
He
was
said he's
I was a member of the fan club too, but I think you were kind of weeding your way out.
Yeah, I think you came one
then.
later.
Yeah.
Later. But that's okay.
Yeah, because I used to go to the luncheons and all that. And
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, but your mom didn't drive you, did she?
No.
That is crazy. I can't believe how old I am.
A little bit young. I'm a little bit younger.
Yeah, right. Young enough to have your mother drive you while I was driving myself. So yeah, I don't know about that. So let's talk real quick about number one, how you guys got started in becoming referees. Like, what made you decide to become referees other than maybe wrestlers or commentators or something else?
Good, Joe. You were in TWA before me, so you go first.
Yeah, well, like you said, I've been a wrestling fan since I guess like I was 7 years old. So found you guys, I guess I was about 15, the fan club and the radio show. So knew you guys. My grandfather, when I was about 14, 15, gave me a camera. And Bill Apter had a one-page article in Inside Wrestling on how he takes wrestling photos, what camera he uses, aperture, speed, film. So I read that. I kind of mimicked that. I don't know if you remember, I used to take pictures from the seats. I got into some wrestling magazines. And through that, I got to know Johnny Hotbody. They were like 2 blocks down and 2 blocks over from me in South Philly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I actually met Tony Stetson in the Methodist Hospital my senior year. For high school, we had to do like 40 hours community service. So I did it at Methodist Hospital, and I saw him in there, and I had seen him wrestle before and took pictures of him. So, connecting there, was friends with both Tony and Johnny. And I guess I kind of had in my head, I wasn't going to be a wrestler. I thought, and I think a lot of people thought this, about being a manager. And of course, other managers started as photographers. And I can't remember if it was Hotbody or Stetson that it said Joel was Rich Engling was moving to Florida, and he was a referee. And Joel had started the school, and I had known Joel, from the fan club and the radio show. And they said he was looking for a referee. And, so I talked to him and, started at the school, and John Finnegan trained me. And, I didn't do it very long. I did TWA as long as it lasted, and a little bit of ECW, a little bit of indies, but it was really good for me. Just not as a wrestling fan, but like life too. I was a pretty quiet kid, so I learned to socialize a little bit more. Go in front of people, and how to deal with that stuff too. So I lost a lot of weight. I don't know if you noticed, I gained a little bit of it back, but I originally, when I started at that wrestling school, I was there 3 nights a week, and it was hot as hell in there. And
I bet
just, refereeing, you have to have a certain amount of stamina too, doing it, especially doing a lot of matches in a row in the heat. So it was good for me. I got to meet a lot of and work in the ring with a lot of like the people I watched on TV.
Right. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second, please, if you don't mind. John seems to be here right now. Okay, so this is our third super major referee, ladies and gentlemen, John Finnegan. Hi, John.
Hey.
Can't hear you. We can't hear you. Can you adjust something there? Make sure your volume is up.
Get one of the kids to help you.
Can you hear now?
She's standing right here.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, we can hear you.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. All right. Let's go to Jim for a second. How about you? How did you get started?
I like Joe said, I started out trying to be a manager. I had a character all set up, extravagant Jimmy Fortune.
Wow.
Managed a couple of like really hole in the wall indie shows. And I said, well, I want to move up next level, and let me call Joel and see what I can do with TWA, because he was obviously successful in the area. So I called him and I pitched the idea to him. He said, well, I don't really need another referee, but I could use. I'm sorry, I don't need another manager, but I could use a third referee.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me the pitch of the school and everything, and said, think about it and give me a call back in a few days. So I hung up and I talked to my wife and called him back 10 minutes later and said, I'll see you Tuesday at the school.
Cool.
And I think I did maybe 8 weeks of training, something like that. And I had my first match with Tri-State.
Very
wow.
cool.
That's how that unfortunate story starts.
Okay, John, how about you? How did you get involved?
First of all, sorry about the delay. I had a little issue, computer
No
issue. I got to go back to another one. I actually got lucky. I'll try to keep it a short story. I used to work in a purchasing department with my father, and I had dealings with a lot of vendors that we bought material from. So I got invited to a lot of luncheons and special events, and we had a variety club, local variety club one that was at the Hideaway in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It was a restaurant. They had a lot of local sports figures there and different local personalities. And one of the guys happened to be there was Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh, wow.
So we went there and went to the luncheon. I went up to him, and he worked me up and down one side and up and down the other, and pretty much patted me on the head and shoved me along. He said, "You keep trying, kid, and if you work hard and meet the right people and do this, you'll make it. I'm sure you can." Wouldn't give me any kind of information whatsoever on how to get involved in the business or a school or anything like that. So I left there pretty discouraged, and I did know that Buddy Rogers lived in Haddonfield at the time and was involved in the Monster Factory. So I literally went up to his house, knocked on his door. He invited me in, talked with me for an hour, told me he was getting out of the Monster Factory, but go see Larry and he'll take care of you. So next day I went out to the Monster Factory, saw Larry. Excuse me, didn't see Larry. I got there and Dick Worley was there. Larry was on vacation. He was watching the school for him at the time. So Dick said, "Yeah, Larry will be back." And since you came here to see him, I'd rather you talk to him and then let me know what you think. So I came back the following week when he was back. And I talked to Larry, and the only thing Larry wanted to talk about was how he was getting paid, when he was getting paid, how quick can he be paid, and that was pretty much the whole conversation. Is how I got paid. So I left there even more discouraged from the Monsoon encounter, and went home that night. Called Dick the next day, and he said, "Listen, you can start traveling with me. I'll train you. This is the price." He actually let me write up a contract, which my boss at the time wrote out for me with a payment plan. I met him. My dad and I went down to the Tropicana in Atlantic City where they were doing AWA tapings. Met him there. He signed it. Was so nice. Nice to my dad, nice to me. And from there, it took off. And at the time, Dick was so involved in the athletic commissions. I was really lucky about traveling with him because I got to meet all the promoters, all the different athletic commission people. And I just was lucky I went there that night. And he just happened to be there watching the school for him. That's how it started.
That's pretty cool. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you, I told you guys all in the text that our show is a lot about stories, okay? The people who do listen to the show, and honestly, I'm not 100% sure how many there are, but they love to hear stories. And I know that deep down inside, you guys got to have a ton of stories. I want you to tell us any kind of heat you had in the back, if a mistake that you made, any kind of wrestler mistake that they made and you covered it up or you fixed it or you helped them along? Any kind of repercussions you might have had from fans? Anything like that? Any kind of story that you have, just spill it out. Jeannie and I are going to sit here and just let the three of you talk. How's that sound?
I'll give you a quick funny one. At the beginning days of TWA, Joel ran a show. It was in the parking lot. I believe it was Blackwood. I could be wrong with the city, but it was in a shopping center parking lot, outdoor show.
Was it outside the Friendlies?
It may have been.
Blackwood Clementon Road.
It was out that way. Yeah.
That's the first show I refereed. That was July. I don't mean to cut you off, but that was July.
I started to think of it today as I was coming home from work, and
July of '90. Yeah,
I knew it was an outdoor shopping center.
In a tent. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So that day was I wasn't married yet, but my wife and I were celebrating our 1-year dating anniversary that day of the show. So that was a conversation earlier in the day, or maybe the day before, that I was doing the show and we weren't doing something for our first anniversary. So I talked her into going to the show and we'll do something afterwards. So the first match I did, I know it was definitely Kat LaRue, and I want to say Misty Blue may have been the other girl of them in the match that I did. And they called a spot in the back, which they called the honeymoon spot. And what it was one girl would cover the other. I would count. They would kick out. She'd jump right back on her, count again, kick out. And the third time, I counted 2. They kicked out. But this time, I rolled to my back, and she landed right on top of me as she kicked out. And my wife is sitting front row watching this, already pissed at me because I did the show. We didn't go out.
Yeah.
I looked over, and I just saw that wonderful Italian look that I've seen the last 30-some years from ringside. But it was funny. We laughed about it, and that was one of my fun story memories from TWA.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. How about you guys? Anybody else have a nice story for us?
You want to go, Jim? Or?
You have...
Yeah, I'll go. I don't know if it's necessarily nice.
Go ahead.
But I can remember the first day I went to the school. I'm in the ring, and I don't know how I got into the corner, but all of a sudden, Johnny Hotbody takes my shirt and puts it over my head, and I cannot tell you how many chops I got.
Oh my God!
And who was doing them? Whether it was just him or whether it was everybody that was there. But I guess that was my initiation, because the shirt came back down. I didn't have any tears or anything, and I was like, all right, let's keep going. And I guess I passed my initiation.
What did they say to you in the back about that?
Nothing. Nobody said anything.
No, they just beat you up in the ring and let it go?
Yep, that was it. They wanted to see. I guess they wanted to, or at least Johnny, if not anybody else, wanted to see if I was tough enough to take it and stick around. And
wow,
I have been able to stick around.
That's crazy. Well, I remember Johnny Hotbody was nobody to trifle with. Let me tell you, he was in his day, in his time, he was unbelievable. Very, very, very crazy. How about you, Joe? You got a story?
Yeah, I for as little as I refereed, I always seem to come up with a lot of stories. I like to tell stories. God knows. When I run out and see John and we go on a car trip, it's like a lot of stories for you. Some are embellished, to make them a little bit funnier, but
there's no kayfabe here, by the way, so say whatever you want.
Right. So the first show I did was what John said, was at Clementon. That was July. So the next show I did, my second show, was September at Convention Hall. And I can't remember when John told me. I think John told me, or Joel. Probably John told me that I was going to do Abdullah the Butcher against Manny Fernandez. And I was like,
oh my God.
You gotta be kidding me. You know what I mean? Because as a fan, I started reading Meltzer like in 85 and 86 and stuff like that. But, there was always guys like Abby, Funk, Chic, even Manny to an extent. Like those guys, it's a work, but Stan Hansen, like switch flips,
Yeah, yeah.
So I was scared to death to be in there with Abby.
I
And
bet.
so Manny was late, and it started with Cactus and Abby.
Oh,
And
we'll talk about that match. Go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah, what your version of it?
yeah, yeah. And then, so as Manny got there, he ran to the ring. Cactus bailed. So even though I did the little show in July in the parking lot, this was like my first like big show, and
Right.
and about 15 people from my family came. And I
Oh,
told you
wow.
my mom used to take me
Drive
to
you.
the radio show. My dad used to take me to the matches. So, those matches, there was rarely a conclusive finish or an ending. It was just usually just out of control, no contest. And we wound up in the bleachers, and Abby threw me over like a row of chairs.
Oh,
And
wow.
later in the night, there was a pull apart where Terry Funk Powell dragged me on the floor, and I never taken one,
God.
and didn't know it was coming. I took it wrong. I was lucky I didn't get hurt. So yeah, my mom was a worrier, a lot like me. And I remember after she said, saw that show, she said, "Joe, I love you, but I can never come to another show again."
God.
After seeing that, and so that was the only show that she saw. But yeah, that was like it's like throwing a baby in the water, letting them swim.
Yeah.
You
It
figure it.
sounds less dangerous to put a baby in the water than it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jumping in the ring with Abby or Terry.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but it was still fun. It was a good experience. I did, it's kind of funny to say this a little bit, but like as part of photography, when you're doing the matches, like you kind of know to anticipate what's coming, when to move. And so a lot of it, I thought, correlated for me as far as like my point of view and where I was to get that picture, knowing or trying to like anticipate where they're going to be and try to be out of the way. So
Well, now let me ask you guys this. We talked to a lot of wrestlers on this program, and most of them were saying that the old school way of doing things was like no practices, no going over it all the time, no, you only knew what the outcome was,
right.
And you basically went by the skin of your teeth, but or the seat of your pants, however it should be. When you guys were referees, did they just give you an ending, or did you know what was going to happen during the match? I mean, obviously, did you just wing it? I mean, how did you handle that?
Yeah, you pretty much, when I first started, you pretty much were just given a finish. And as the match went on, you kind of knew where to be as far as what was going on at the time of the match. And yeah, I guess you could use the word wing it, but in years and years of doing it, you realize where you need to be, when you need to be there, and stuff like that. Most of the time, and I've said it to these guys and other people that have asked for advice, when there's something going on, like a spot going on in the ring, just step back into the corner and just let the guys go. And you'll see it as it's unfolding when you're going to start to make your move for either a count or a break up in the ropes or something like that. But yeah, majority of the years I've done it, you've gotten a finish. And unless there was a real important spot that you need to be involved in, you got that spot as well. But it was pretty much the finish.
Wow, that's it. How about you, Jim?
Yeah, that was it too. If there was something I needed to not see or something I had to see, I'd want to know that. And that's still the same way for me. I'm still out there reffing, and I don't want to know everything. If I go up to the guys that I have their match and, hey guys, what do you do? What do I need to know tonight? And they go, well, we're going to lock up. No. What I need to know. I don't need to hear the whole match.
Right.
Because nowadays they'll spend an hour in the locker room going over a 5-minute match.
Yeah.
And before it was, we'll call it out there. So
now, I'm sorry.
So,
Go
yeah.
ahead. Finish.
No, so that I still like doing it that way. I think my natural reaction is important.
Now, what about refereeing from years ago to the way it might be today? I mean, obviously, the referees today are much more involved in the practicing, in the rehearsing, because the referees, they know exactly when they're going to get hit, how they're going to get hit, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, what would be your first instinct if somebody took you today, let's say, and put you in the January 6th match between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa and just gave you the ending? I mean, do you feel like, you would have to be part of that practice, or do you think you could still do it just knowing the ending?
Yeah, I don't think I would need any kind of practice. Obviously, nowadays TV is a little different as far as positioning, but you always kind of use that same positioning throughout the whole time, even for as much as TV is involved today. Yeah, I don't think you need that. So like Jim was saying, guys talk an hour for matches now. They're 5 minutes long. They start overthinking themselves, and maybe that leads to mistakes or something gets screwed up. But no, it's been the same for me from day one to now, as far as the referees involved.
Cool. Anybody else? Would you want to referee today for these, the way the current matches are on TV and stuff?
No.
No? Jim just says no. No. How about you, Joe?
I barely watch it, let alone want to be involved.
Yeah, it's a lot more production, and even just the way things are now. When I refereed, a lot less structured. Like John and Jim said, finish and maybe a spot or something. Now today, everything's a lot more planned out, but I think the referee just plugs into that and works around that. Yeah, it's helpful if you know the finish. A few times the guys I worked with, and they worked with too, but like Abby and stuff. I mean, I remember one time Abby said, "Yeah, it'll be DQ." He goes, "When the time's right, you'll know." And he knocked me out. I was like, "I guess this is it."
What happened? Why did he knock you out?
It was Bigelow against Abby in South Philly. So, I'm from South Philly. It was at St. John Newman. And I guess I was looking for Bigelow because I was a little bit leery with Abby, couldn't find Bigelow. So I said, I guess I'm going to have to talk to Abby, which I had talked to him before. He was fine. But, and he was just hemming and hawing. And of course, it was not going to be a finish. And he was trying to figure out, well, you know what? When the time's right, you'll know. And I was like, all right, thanks. So, doing the match, he winds up in a sleeper hold. And when a guy's in a sleeper, they'll flail their arms. Mm-hmm. Well, he flailed his arms a couple times. And then, like, his right, he hit me on the temple. And didn't knock me out. But I guess I was like, I felt like I froze a little bit. And then slowly fell, like a tree, like timber. And I'm laying there and I hear Bob Ortiz saying, "Joe, roll this way under the ropes. They're coming. So I rolled out. I don't know who called the DQ or somebody came. And
oh, wow.
In the back, he apologized. Said it was good for the business. I was half out of it. And next thing I know, I'm in the shower and Honky Tonk Man's in there singing,
Did you out?
Yeah, I was in there. I was like, wait a second, am I awake or what's going on here?
Or am I in heaven? What's
He's
going
now
on?
in the shower with the Honky Tonk Man. Something's not right.
That's crazy. Yeah. You wondered how I could hear.
But he definitely sings in the shower. So.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
But
okay, I have a scenario for you guys. I don't know if you watched the show where we talked about when Andre the Giant fought Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan slammed him. I think it was WrestleMania 3. Yeah, right. Okay, 3.
I was actually there.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Andre, being Andre, okay, who never did stuff he didn't want to do. Andre was Andre, and nobody was going to tell him what to do, period. Okay? So Hulk Hogan they were going to wrestle, and Hulk Hogan was like freaking out. He was so worried because Andre didn't want to talk to him about the match at all. Okay. And Hulk Hogan was like, hey boss, what are we going to do? We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Like, and Hulk Hogan had no idea. Okay. Hogan actually wrote 3 pages of moves and, holds and in and out and stuff like that. And he went over it with Andre, and Andre's like, okay. And then finally he goes, what's our ending going to be? And Andre says, don't worry about it. He goes, I'll tell you when it's happening. Okay. The referee didn't know. Nobody knew what the ending or how it was going to end. How would you guys have handled something like that if that happened to you in a match? If you were the referee with Andre and Hulk Hogan and you had no idea what the ending was going to be like, because at the very last second, Andre said to Hogan, pick me up now or smash me now or whatever. And that's how it ended, because there was nothing definite for that prior to that. And I know that for a fact because Hogan said it on an interview and I spoke to Andre personally about that. How would you handle that?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that in that match. I don't know if you remember, very early in the match, there's a false finish where I swear to this day that Joey Morella counts to 3. And
okay,
now thinking back now, maybe he had no idea. Maybe that story is for real. He had no idea what was going on in there. You have to go back and look at that because it looks like he hits the 3 count, and then they obviously continue from there.
Yeah.
I never really had, not that I remember, had that happen. Actually, it may have been a TWA show. Yeah.
You did. What happened?
And John was there. This wasn't TWA. It was ECW.
Oh, now I was actually going to bring Tully. Yeah.
I had it the first night. You probably had it the second night.
Mm-hmm.
The same match. Shane
What
Douglas
was it?
and Tully Blanchard.
Shane Douglas and Tully Blanchard?
Yeah, Tully was being very difficult the whole weekend. Didn't want to do the job. Didn't want to do business. The match that I did, Jim can jump in after. The match that I did at the arena, I was told to finish. I knew what the finish was. We went to the ring. We were no more 5 minutes or maybe a little more into the match, and they went to the finish. And
wow,
match was supposed to go longer than that. They go to the finish. I froze. I did not count to 3. And I was like shocked. I was stunned that they were going to the finish.
Right.
And Shane kind of looked at me and Tully had a mean look on his face, like he did all weekend. Finally, they just continued, ended up going back to the same finish. We ended the match. He stormed out. I was really ticked about it because I hate doing that. I hate have something like that happen, especially with a finish. So
right.
I went right back and I went right to Paul. And at the time, Paul was in the room with Tully, and Tully was pissed. And Tully blew by me afterwards. I apologized. He just kept on walking. And I went to Paul and I apologized to him. And he said to me, I'll never forget it to this day. He says, don't ever apologize to me for something that somebody else does, especially somebody like Tully Blanchard.
Wow. That's something you want to remember.
Yeah. So,
that's crazy.
And Jim had it worse though the night before.
Yeah.
What happened, Jim?
The night before, same match. It was the main event. We were in Northeast Philly at
the high school.
It was a Catholic high school, maybe Northeast Catholic, I guess it was. And so I knew I had the main event, so I went to Shane. Shane and Tully were in separate locker rooms, not because that's the way it was, but that's just the way they set themselves up. We used, a couple of different locker rooms that night. So, Shane, what's going on? I don't know. I've been talking to him. I'll go over and see what's what. And went over. Tully, you guys know, do you have an idea of what you want to do? And he said, nope. And I went back to Shane. He goes, what did he say? He said, doesn't know what to do. It's like, damn. So I kept going back and forth all night long. And finally, Tully, the last time, pretty much like 5 minutes before the match, Tully said, you'll know when to count 3.
Wow.
And I went back to Shane and told him that. He goes, what the hell does that mean?
I was just going to say, Shane even know?
No. So Shane knew nothing going into the ring either. And went in. They were doing their match. At one point, I forget what happened, but Tully just took me and shoved me out of the ring. get out of my way.
I remember that. Yep.
Keep out of my way. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going to happen here? And then finally they got to where Shane put his finisher on him, and that was it. 1, 2, 3. But that was one of the most difficult nights I ever was in.
And I remember actually everybody in that locker room that was still there was actually either in the stands or somewhere near the ring in case something happened. They were ready to pounce on Tully Blanchard. And I'll never forget it. Everybody was around just waiting for something to go down. That wasn't.
See, I don't remember that part.
We were waiting. In fact, when you just said about getting pushed out of the ring, we're thinking, some people like looked at each other like, is he really going to do this? But then they continued on.
That's crazy. Well, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Apparently, Tessa has some of the same issues.
Yeah, Joe, you can attest to that. Joe worked with her with ECWA, and she's.
I think that was the night I met her. That was a while ago, right?
Yeah. She had only been wrestling about 6 to 8 months, I think, at that point. We found
she
her
was really good. I mean, she was nice to the fans. She was nice.
She is.
Was she difficult though?
Never had. Well, see, I didn't. Mike booked and paid the people, so from my point of view, I didn't have really problems with her. I was trying to think, like, how long she was champion.
Well, she won. We put the belt on her at the Super 8, which was
that was in Carney's Point.
That's right. And then
because Heidi Lee, hosted the tournament. Right. Like when they announced the girl, she was in the ring, shook their hands, put the medals on them. So, like the stories I heard about her later on, the people complaining about her, I never experienced that stuff with her. I really didn't have a hard time with her. I think everybody, when they're new and they're coming in, everything's great. And then as you're looking to get to the next level and stuff, things start to change, and that's just the nature of the business. It's always a turnover. You know what I mean? Somebody comes in, they get better, they leave, the next person comes in. But I always thought she was really good. Again, the other stories about her and stuff that happened, I don't know. I wasn't there. A lot of crazy things happen on social media. A story comes out and everybody, it's like pile on. And, it's a lot of people that weren't even there. They're just... It's how the whole thing goes, social media canceling people and stuff like that. But I think everybody, as they get better and the longer they're with you, they're looking to go somewhere else, make more money, do something bigger, do something better, and that's fine. I mean, I'm glad we had her when we had her, and like I said, we didn't start her. She had worked, but not much. I mean, because you remember, John, like when she was there, it's like, well, we were going to use her and put her over. What could she do? You know what I mean? Because she hadn't been around all that long.
Right.
But
well, the one thing that stands out with me with her is when after we did put the belt on her and she went back to North Carolina, I believe is where she was living.
Yeah, I think so.
She held Mike up for more money coming back. So
wow, did she really?
That did not take long for her to do that. Know how to do that. She figures, hey, I got the belt. These guys put me right over. My pay just went up, and I'm going to make sure I try to get it. So that was probably the most difficult thing with her was dealing with that. And I didn't have any direct dealing with that, but Mike had to deal with that.
Right, like John's saying, that's something Mike dealt with. Some other things that might have affected me, where like if we asked people to go out and sign autographs and pictures. That was something that affected me because either myself or John was doing that. Mike would be up front taking the tickets and stuff. And, we had certain rules, and I think some people didn't like them. You know what I mean? But we try to run like a tight ship, or like organization. Things make sense. You know what I mean? We used to put up a paper in the back, no ref bumps, this, that, unless we tell you. Because when the guys are out there, they don't realize there's 6, 7 other matches, and they have no idea what they're doing in those matches. But yeah, so the other stuff, like as far as, did they do the finish we asked them to do, and John will tell you, we never really told people what to do in their match. I always looked at it like we're using them because we like what they do, but it was just the finish and the story. But yeah, any problems we would have to deal with would be more like, were they cooperative, as far as doing what they asked. But the money part was Mike, but that happens,
Now, I'm going to give you a scenario, because when I said that about Andre the Giant, like I said, I spoke with him, and I know what, I dated him. I know what kind of a man he was, okay? And I know his temperament, and I know what he does or did and didn't like to do. And like I said, he didn't listen to anybody, nobody, period. Even he did a match in Japan. I forget who the wrestler he wrestled was. He was a Japanese. Jumbo Tsuruta, for some reason, comes to mind. I don't know what happened. But anyway, Andre was either drunk or he was pissed off that night. And he knew this finish and all that. But when he went in the ring, he completely and totally stopped. He did not wrestle. He did not. He just stood there. He didn't do anything. And, this poor wrestler who's fighting him is trying to get him over and trying to this and that. And Andre's just standing there, like this, like, go ahead, try it. And finally, the referee was at a point where they were like, look, we got to end this. We got to do something here. Like, that's why I keep asking you guys, like, have you ever had a situation like that where, like, you honest to God didn't know what was going to happen in the ring, or like a wrestler was that objectionable where, they were like, I'm not doing what you want me to do, and don't tell you that till they're in the ring. Or like, I think if I was a referee and that happened to me, I'd have to hit him, because that's what I do. I hit people. But I have to hit him. I have to say, what are you, crazy? I'm going to smack you. How do you handle a referee, a wrestler rather, who does that to a referee and just is like, F you, like, I'm not listening to anything you guys said. I'm in the ring now. What are you going to do to me? What would you do in a case like that?
Well, I'd stay far away. I've had a earlier in my career situation. I tell this story a lot. With the
I know what this one is. Yeah,
the Iron Sheik. And
I know all the stories.
It was a tag match, Wildwood Convention Halls, or WWF, where I was getting bookings through the commission with Dick, and it was Sheik and Nikolai versus Corporal Kirshner, and I forget who his partner was at the time. But through the whole match, Sheik was yelling at me, move here, do this, do that, get out of my way, the whole entire match. And you could see his blood pressure going up. I knew what the finish was. They did the finish they were supposed to do. Match is over. Kirshner and his partner went back. Sheik and Nikolai went back. And I was the last one to come back through the curtain. I came through the curtain, and Sheik was there ready to pounce on me. And he came right at me. Yes, came right at me. Everybody jumped in front of him, pulled him back. The agents that were back there, Rene Goulet specifically, who I remember after they got calmed down and they got rid of him. So I don't know where he went because I never saw him again that night. And he came up to me and he said, "Don't worry, kid. That's just Sheiky being cheeky." So I learned what that was that night, what cheeky being cheeky meant. And
wow,
it was kind of scary because he was, you could just see it in the ring, how he was getting angrier and angrier. And I just, like I said, I just kept my distance and just do what I need to do.
I was in a situation like that recently where it was a tag match, and I'm not going to mention the promotion or any of the names, but
that's fine.
The heel tag team were not in the right condition to do this match. The one guy was drunk and the other guy was untrained, and it got about 5 minutes into the match and realized that the guy who was untrained was not tagging in. The one time he did tag in, he hopped over the top rope and his legs wobbled like a marionette and tagged right back out. And the other guy tagged in who was drunk, too drunk to work. And I told the senior partner of the face tag team, just get him to the spot where you do your finish. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and we'll get the hell out of here. Okay. And that's what we did. And I had to step in between them in the back because there was going to be a fight. And I went and got the promoter and a couple of the other guys. So this is going to turn into something if we don't stop it right now. And we did. We squashed it, and the two guys who were the culprits were left. Right, they didn't even change. They got their bags and got out because I think the whole locker room was going to come after them.
You know what bothers me sometimes. I was just going to say I was a promoter. Okay, not for a very long time, but I was a promoter. And what bothered me a lot, and again, my temperament is what it is. But we had some difficulty with wrestlers during a promotion with asking for a certain amount of money and doing this and doing that and being obnoxious and not pulling through. And, a lot of promotions, promise people a certain amount of money. They give it to them sometimes up front. I never did that. I gave it to them at the end. And I'll be honest with you, there was a few times where I didn't give a wrestler what I agreed to give him because he sucked and he didn't do what he was told. And that didn't go over well, but I was like, what are you going to do? Hit me? Go ahead. And you'll never hit somebody else again. I mean, what was I going to do to him? But, I had a big mouth. I still do. So, what the hell. But Joe, you are a promoter as well, right?
No, well, I mean, Mike ran the shows and I helped, me and John helped him and stuff. So, okay. Yeah.
You were more of a booker, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Mike took care of all the problems with the. Yeah. Not very popular, but sometimes it takes somebody like that. You know what I mean? That me, I'm Mr. Nice Guy. I'd probably cave.
No,
Mike's the opposite. So.
Yeah, especially now, as far as that goes, especially nowadays too. With I hate to sound like the old guy, but the generation right now. Yeah, I am the old guy. Yeah, I guess you're right. The generation now is. I don't remember it being the way it was 20 years ago, like that. I mean, they're entitled. They know everything. They're going to do what they want, and it's a shame because there's a lot of talented people out there that probably aren't going to go any further than the VFW Hall or anything like that, just because of attitudes like that. And it's not going to help you.
No, because a lot of times these young people come in, they think they're already Roman Reigns, and already, Seth Rollins or whatever. But I remember the night that Abdullah worked for us. And, it's funny because Abdullah, as crazy as he was, okay, and he literally, I had my heart in my mouth that night. He was supposed to scare me, and he didn't just do that. He chased me back into the dressing room, and I had heels on. I was like, I'm going to kill this guy. Scared the hell out of me. But that's when we were promoting, or when I was a promoter, we went out of our way to make sure that everything was done the way it was supposed to be done. So at the end of the night, we had our envelopes ready and we were giving them to the wrestlers. And, because we were taking a little bit too long, several wrestlers were huffing and puffing, and Joel and Paul didn't say anything, but I did. And I said, what are you huffing and puffing about? I said, you and your loser popularity, you didn't pull anybody in. You sucked in the ring. You're lucky you're getting paid at all. And everybody just looked at me. And, Paul right away was like, will you shut up? And, but that's tough. I mean, you cost us money. Or you're one of the people who cost us money. Who are you to huff and puff at me? You know what I mean? I don't care who you are. That doesn't mean anything to me. And I found back then, too, that the referees, in my opinion anyway, probably today, too, had probably one of the hardest jobs, to make sure that everything went well, to make sure that everything went smoothly. Now, I know back then, matches were timed. Everything was on a time limit. Yeah. If somebody said to you, you're going to be a referee, this match is going to endure 20 minutes. How do you know when it's 20 minutes? How do you know how long to go? Does somebody tell you? I know you don't have things in your ears and all that like they do today. But, I mean, how do you gauge that?
Well, back then, you got signals from the timekeeper. They would give you 1 for 5 minutes going, 2 for 10, 3 for 15. Some people would put a pencil in their mouth if it was time to go home. So you were getting communication from the timekeeper most of the time. We didn't even have earpieces in ECW. We're doing pay-per-views. I mean, we were doing pay-per-views without earpieces. We were working with the guy with our Andy Weinberg was at ringside and giving us signals. So I never used them until I started doing WWE shows. And I hated it.
And those were horrible.
Terrible. It almost cut your hearing off completely. You only have it on one side, but I think it just overpowers you completely, especially when you're in an arena with 20,000 people. And you're trying to hear what they're telling you and everything else going on. It's kind of tough. So I always like the old school way of doing it.
Yeah, and they sounded like they were talking from the other end of the Jack in the Box driving.
You're right. Yeah.
So it sounded garbled maybe and low, right?
Yeah, it was really low and sometimes staticky, and it just wasn't. I didn't think it was efficient. I mean, nowadays, if you look at a referee, they got like almost a freaking headset on their heads with the pack on their belts.
They can talk back to them in the back.
Yeah, you can talk back now. I just think I know it's a different business. It's entertainment and time and TV and all that, but it just looks silly.
Kills the illusion of spontaneity.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that adds to the fakeness of it. It kind of does, you know.
That's what I always say is that, you know, as time goes on and technology develops, and you know what, I used to love watching AGT. I was like, wow, this is beautifully produced. But I think wrestling got to the point where it became overproduced, and everything was just very meticulous to the point that, there's no spontaneity, there's no surprise. And I think it killed a lot of it. I mean, if you're an old time fan watching it today, I think it's overproduced. I think you can still keep the times and do the things that you have to do without getting everything down to the every little, second. But like you said, it's a different thing. They got people writing. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's like a script. Well, there was an incident in one of the pay-per-views where Damian Priest was in the match, and he was just laying there, and he was supposed to kick his arm up on 2, and he did it, and they had to go right to the ending. But in a case like that, I think personally that the more rehearsal, and if that's what it is, because like especially in a pay-per-view, you've got to be there the entire weekend, practicing and getting it right. And if the referee doesn't get everything right now, it's not like it was years ago. If the referee doesn't get his spot right away, that can affect the entire match as well. Did you guys ever have a thing where, you had a beef, like you had a heat with a wrestler because they accused you of not doing your job or not doing it right?
TWA and CN Red was the culprit, and I want to say, I can't remember if he was wrestling Tony or Rebel. I forget who he was wrestling. It was down in Baltimore, and he did not kick out, and I counted to 3. And he was huffing and puffing about it. We got a little heated in the back about it, and he was upset about it. But I mean, people came up to him, and he finally calmed down. He says, "You didn't kick out," and that's what a referee's supposed to do. You don't kick out. You're supposed to count to 3. I mean, there's a advertised rule to protect the champion, where you try not to count to 3 on the champion if it's not supposed to be a title switch. But I mean, there's going to be times that happens too, and you got to do it, or you're going to look silly sitting there, and they're laying there and not moving. And look, the Damian Priest thing is a good example because he did not move. I saw that when it happened. I don't know if he was maybe knocked a little silly or whatever it was. I never heard an explanation afterwards, but yeah, that did not look good.
No, it didn't. And when they had the press conference after it, Triple H, said, well, that he tried to cover it up in a million different ways, and finally he said, look, he made a mistake. It was a mistake. Right. I personally don't like that he said that. I don't like the fact that, I mean, I know it's fake. Everybody knows it's fake. It's rehearsed. It's this, it's that, whatever. It's fine. I just don't like the fact that he actually said it.
I actually like his first explanation when he said he'll respect the referee's decision that he didn't kick out, or he did kick out. I mean, and just leave it at that. You don't have to go into Joe and I complain about this all the time.
I don't like those press conferences.
I was just going to say the post press conference thing is just total. It's not a football game. It's an entertainment. And again, they're just not trying to hide anything. Everything's out in the open and everybody knows everything.
Right.
I can't stand them post pay-per-view press conference where they talk about everything.
Yeah, it's like they tell you why they did what they did. You know, it's like watching a movie where they would have like the director's cut, you know? And I mean, some people are interested in that stuff, but like it just, you know, they say suspend your disbelief. It just takes you out of it, you know?
Yeah.
And people know what it is, but I feel like you don't have to keep reminding people. You know what I mean? Exactly. And I think they can do a post-show press conference in a kayfabe way, but it's almost like, you know, and I know you like AEW, and I'm not saying I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I know they did a lot, and I know because they're criticized a lot, it almost seems like when they have the press conference, like they're explaining themselves. It's like, look, you do what you do, that's it. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. And if you find you want to change it from the feedback, fine. But it's almost like you're defending yourself. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah. You know,
there was this match this weekend. I was telling Jeannie, or was saying it in the beginning, where Will Ospreay went against Darby Allin. Okay. Now, clearly, Darby Allin was going to be put over. You could see that because ultimately he's going to be champion, I believe, at some point because he's going to be fighting Moxley, you know, for the belt. But anyway, Will Ospreay is not 100% full-time AEW. He still wrestles more in Japan. He still goes to Japan. So between being, you know, in England and going to Japan, he's not on AEW all the time. So could he have really beaten Darby Allin? Who knows? Maybe. But you could see that Darby Allin was put over. Okay, you could see. So that would, to me, that would be like at the press conference, them saying to, you know, Tony Khan, like, oh my God, I can't believe he beat Will Ospreay, blah blah blah, and Tony Khan saying, well, we're trying to get Darby over. You know, we want to give him the belt. It's just like that. Like, why don't you just say that? Like, as far as AEW goes, Tony Khan pisses me off. He really does. Okay, and I've said this a million times. He's a fan promoter, and that's no good. He's like a little boy playing with daddy's money, and he's just doing what he wants. He's treating it as a fan, okay? You got to treat it as a business, not as a fan. And I think that includes all the problems that AEW seems to be having, okay? I happen to love AEW, but I watch all the wrestling. I watch it all, okay? But
you know, I don't know. I don't know Tony Khan, but I think he's probably a nice guy. He's generous, and I think he's probably too nice, and they take advantage of him. And you just you can't let the I don't know what the saying is. You know, you can't let everybody else run the show.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
The inmates run the asylum. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reason why. And I'm not talking about the controversial stuff and the scandals and stuff, but people that would hate WWF because they didn't want to be told what to do. You know what I mean? They wanted to do whatever they wanted to do, but there was a final say, and that was it. And I think that's why these guys loved AEW, because they could do whatever they wanted to do. They could pal around, get in his ear. And, you know, same thing with WCW. I remember Eric Bischoff saying, you know, 50 people would come up to him, and whoever grabbed him last before he went through the curtain, whatever they told him, that's what he did. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you got to go in, and it's like, not to be against going with a good idea if someone else has it, but you just can't, you're not going to please everybody. And I think that's what the problem is there. I think he's, you know, like they say, all friends wrestling and stuff. I think he just, you know, he's a fan, which I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but
no, but
you're not gonna make everybody happy,
No, but I think it hinders your judgment. It's kind of like the song says, who let the dogs out? Because it's kind of like when you let all the animals out of the cage, they run rampant. They don't listen. You got to let them out one at a time, maybe. But here's the other thing. Okay, I think Tony Khan needs a better booker. I think he needs somebody who's really good and stern and strong, and also won't let the people or the wrestlers bamboozle them. It's hard. And like you said, I don't know if it was John or Joe who said that today's wrestlers are entitled or they act entitled. And that's just it. If they seem to be so entitled, even young, just coming into the fray, they're entitled. Well, I want to do what I want to do because they all think that they're that good, just because they can do acrobats, they can jump off of high surfaces. Okay, fine. But wrestling is not acrobatic. It's supposed to be wrestling. It's not supposed to be jumping off the highest entity you can find in a building, and landing through 19 tables. That's not what it's about. It's about coming into the ring, putting on a good match, showing that you're a good wrestler, not a good carnival player or whatever, like a tightrope walker. No, I don't want to see a tightrope walker. I want to see a wrestler, and that's the thing that people I don't think understand as far as that goes. Like even the referees now, with the lady referees that are in, let me ask you a question. What do you guys think of the female referees, and do you think that the female referees would have made it back then in the old days?
I'm 50.
Well, Jessica Carr would.
Yeah, I love Jessica. I really do. Yeah. And she's good. She's gotten better. She's definitely gotten better. We get working with the Dudleys and then working there. I'm sure she's had some of the greatest people give her advice. I hate to sound like this, but I was always taught that the referee was the authority figure in a match. And we take bumps and we try to control and sometimes it gets out of control. If Jessica Carr, I don't remember the black girl's name, it's there as well too. She's maybe 90 pounds soaking wet, and she's supposed to be an authority figure. And they put the girls in with the guys in a lot of the high profile made events. And I just don't buy it. I just don't see that where they could actually stop a fight between these two guys. And that's always what it was. But I'm probably so way beyond what it was years ago now that's not even thought of. I mean, they got girls there that do a good job, and they it's just not the same to me. It's different.
Okay, what do you think?
I always felt a referee. If you were to take the concept of a referee and put him in a natural setting outside of wrestling, I always saw him as like the vice principal of a high school. The kind of guy that if you're farting around at lunchtime, he comes up and smacks you in the back of the head and says, "Knock it off." And not that we would, touch a wrestler, but we would let them know the rules. Hey, you don't do that. I don't really hear the referees today saying saying get him out of the corner, off the ropes, get your finger out of his eye. You don't hear any of that. They kind of stand there, their hands in each other, waiting for something to happen, and then, I have to count three, or I almost count three. There's no interaction, and I think that's a disconnect between what the wrestlers are trying to say in their match and the fans reacting. I think John's responsible for it with me. I don't know if Joe feels the same way, but John taught us about giving a natural reaction. If something smaller happens, you're like, ooh, but if something really big happens, you're like, oh, wow. And that's not being relayed to the crowd. So the crowd's just sitting there with their hands folded too.
Exactly. I remember in the old days, if a referee, like let's say, got a bump, Like, it wouldn't take anything for him to get up and start yelling and screaming at the wrestler and saying, who the hell are you to hit me? And actually, maybe push him or whatever. You're right. That doesn't happen today at all.
Look at Tommy Young. Tommy Young used to do that all the time with Ric Flair.
Yeah, so that's what I'm waiting to say was that. And Dick Worley, too, used to go back at the guys.
Dick Worley looked like he could beat the shit out of you. He was an old military guy.
Popeye.
Yeah. It was that's something that's definitely different from when Vince was still around to now. Because I've been told in the WWE experience that I've had that Vince wanted an authority, get in there, yell, get in between the guys. He wanted a person that looked like he could actually get in between them and break them up. So that's definitely changed since he's gone.
I think now they just want to focus more on the wrestler than the authority figure or whatever,
Yep.
And nowadays you don't even hear the referee count 1, 2, 3.
No,
I verbally count 1, 2, 3 because a wrestler may not be actually paying attention to the ref count, or there's a manager on the outside of the ring pounding on the mat too. And you can't tell the two sounds.
Can't tell, right?
So I always verbally count. I never see that anymore.
You know what I like that I used to see years ago that I don't see anymore now? When a referee slapped his hand down, a lot of times he'd slap his hand down and put his hand under the shoulder just to show everybody that it was down. Like 1, 2, 3. And then this way, because today you can't even tell half the time if there's a shoulder up or at the end of the matches, oh, well, there was a shoulder up. It's just plain as day, that shoulders are up and they do nothing about it. The referee supposedly, calls the shot, but he really doesn't. He doesn't. And it's like, even with the girls, like, the girls are like, God bless them, they're good, but they're like Barbie dolls in their ring. They don't do anything.
Where do you see the one they just signed? She's literally a Barbie doll. WWE. Yeah, they got a girl down in NXT who probably stepped out of a magazine.
I gotta watch it. Was she on
I haven't seen her work. I haven't seen her work yet. I just saw that they signed her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's crazy because everybody looks like a Barbie doll still. Like NXT people, NXT women, and I don't like this. I never did. Okay. Let a woman look like she wants to look. As long as she has skills. These men look like they want to look. Granted, today wrestlers don't look like bums like they used to years ago sometimes, but the women were like, seriously, but the women years ago were like, they had to have this hourglass figure and this and that. Now they're not as bad in that regard, but like years and years ago with Moolah and all, and Judy Grable, was it? And like, or it wasn't like that. These girls had some meat on them. You know what I'm saying? And they wrestled well. It's like now everything is for appearance. Everything is for big boobs, the really big lips, wrestle. Just wrestle. That's what you're there to do. Just wrestle. Show us what you can do.
It's all about TV. They want to present something that everybody wants to see, and every guy that's in that wrestling arena wants to see those girls. So that's
it wasn't until like Sherry Martel, nice figure, good looking girl, who could wrestle too. Sherry beat the crap out of us.
Oh my God.
Oh, God.
Sherry was a
Holy
beast.
Crap.
Yeah. Did you referee matches with Sherry, Jim?
As a manager, when she would manage Shane,
okay.
we did the 60-minute match with that was Broadway, and like at one point of the match, I went to Sherry and I kicked myself for doing this afterwards. I said, Sherry, I need a break. Bump me, and she kicked the shit out of me.
What did she say when you said that?
She said, okay, because we were 40 minutes into the match, and
wow.
I'm still in there going, and I'm like, bump me so I can take a breath. It's okay.
I'll tell you, she was great. We're going to have a show with Kathy Fitzpatrick, who was literally her best friend.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a show with her on. So it is what it is. I wanted to ask you guys if we could possibly at some point, we're doing a lot of shows that are in preparation for the May 3rd show, of course. Like I told before, Jeannie and I are getting our own people together, but we're also getting people that are going to be in Joel's show on May 3rd on the podcast. But I always ask our guests if they would be willing to come back another time, because like you can't get everything out in a little over an hour. It just we could be here for 6 hours listening to these stories.
And we're also going to be doing a tribute to the late great living legend Larry Winters.
Yeah,
awesome.
And I know you guys were really good friends.
God, when I first started, if I didn't work a Larry Drake match every show I was on, I wouldn't know what to do. Hundreds of times I worked with a great guy. And
well, it's funny. We may actually have to do a two-time tribute to Larry, because there's so many people who want to be on, and so many people who knew him to honor him. I can, including me and Jeannie, I can only get 10 people on the screen. Okay. So there's obviously more than 10 people who love Larry and who want to contribute. Yeah. So we might have to actually do it on 2 different days or 2 weeks, or maybe do 2 podcasts in 1 week. But I was going to ask you, thank you for bringing that up, Jeannie, if you guys would be willing to be part of the tribute to Larry Winters, and if you would be willing to come back again for another referee night. I think that would be great. I think the fans are going to enjoy this show.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I definitely have to ask, well, you don't have to say the story now, but I definitely want to hear the story, Joe, of how Larry gave you your nickname, your legendary nickname.
I don't know if it was Larry, Johnny, Tony.
He told me it was him. So whether it's true or not, I don't know. But he said it was him.
All right, wait a minute. What's your legendary nickname?
I can't remember it.
Oh, I remember it.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah.
I was in tears crying.
Yeah.
Hello, Joe.
I thought it was Tony. I thought it was Tony or Johnny.
Say that again.
Gigolo Joe.
I know. I heard that. Okay. Why do you call you Gigolo Joe?
I don't know.
Yeah, you must have done something, Joe, because you're the only one who got a nickname.
Stop it.
Get nicknames.
Huh? You know what? I actually don't know this story. I just remember it.
I don't know either. I
honestly don't know.
Joe Zanolle.
It could have been Larry, Mike, Johnny, or.
I don't care who it was. What is the story? What is it about? Hurry up! I want to hear it now. I want to hear the whole thing.
I don't know. I guess it just rhymed.
What he told me, and I don't remember details because I have Alzheimer's, but it was you guys were down the shore. I guess.
Oh, okay. When they set up, they had Larry's wife come up and hit on me or something.
Yes,
right.
And you were
because I didn't know who she was.
Right.
Yeah, that's when I got sun poison.
And and trying to hit on girls, it was just like that. You weren't good at it, so therefore he named you Gigolo Joe.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is.
I mean that's possible too, but they had his wife at the time come up to me and I had never met her.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like, this strange girl starts coming up talking to me, and then, then they all came out, and then I wound up getting sun poison, and
oh my God.
So
from now on, I'm going to introduce you as Gigolo Joe. How's that?
I mean, you can if you like. I'm called quite a few different names.
He got mad at me because once Larry told me that story, I was like, "Oh my God, I have to make a sign." And at ECWA, and I made a sign, Gigolo Joe. And
Larry found me amusing.
You were not happy with me.
Yeah,
that's funny. That is really funny. It's a shame we didn't talk about that in the beginning. But listen, I do want you guys to come back. I really do. I really, really wholeheartedly enjoyed the show. And
all three of you guys are going to be there on May 3rd, right?
Yes.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Do you have any involvement in the show at all?
We're all reffing.
Yeah. Oh, you are all reffing.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
And are you any of you going to be one of the lumberjacks for Mike Tartaglia and
I think I'm refereeing that match.
Okay.
Wow.
No,
well, there you go. We're going to have you on even again after that day, maybe on the 4th. And
I didn't. Yeah, I think I'm going to
Yeah.
timekeep and referee, but I
Cool. Very
just
cool.
referee in one match. Yeah.
And
Very cool.
honestly, that may actually be my last show in the area. I'm not
Really?
retiring, but I'm moving out of the area in March or April, and I'm going to be coming back for the show.
Where are you moving to?
Florida.
Oh man,
Wow.
one of those Florida people, huh?
Yeah, well, our children are there, our grandchildren are there, so it's time to pack
Okay.
up the winter
Aw.
residence and go down there full time.
Yeah.
The good thing about a podcast, though, is you can do it from anywhere. So that doesn't mean you're going to get away from us, okay?
No, I know I won't get away from anybody.
Uh,
There are
All
more
right, well,
guys
thank
down in
you.
Florida than up here.
What's that?
There are more of the guys in Florida than up here. So
Yeah.
Well, get us some guys.
moving into
Let's
the
find
bee's
more
nest.
people to be on the podcast. Anybody that you're in touch with, anybody that you know, wrestler, referee, whatever, ask them. Feel comfortable to ask them if they want to be on the podcast. I'd love it.
We'll do.
All
Definitely.
right. Well, thank you very much, guys. It has been a wonderful show. We will definitely have you on again. Thank you for all your stories. Thank you for all your input. I'm going to now take you guys off the screen. Jeannie and I are going to just close it up. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
was a
guys.
great
Bye.
show.
Good night.
Merry
Bye,
Christmas.
guys.
Thank you.
Merry
Happy holidays,
Christmas.
everybody.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas and Happy New Year to all three of you and your
You too.
families. Bye-bye.
You too.
Wow, that was a good show.
It was.
It really was. I like hearing stuff like that. I like these
I love
guys.
those
They're pretty
stories.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
They're
God,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's recap real quick. May 3rd. One and done. Okay. We're gonna have Bay on here probably next week to go over everything again. And let you know what's happening, who's on the show. There's a lot of wrestlers. I mean, old wrestlers, new wrestlers. The whole TWA squad is going to be there. There's matter of fact, yesterday when I was at the funeral, I met Bill Apter's best friend, and so I didn't get a chance to talk to her about the show and anything because you don't want to talk about it at a time like that. But I met her, so hopefully I'll be able to get a hold of him too. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And again, please get your tickets. Get them now. I mean, don't wait till the last minute, please, because the good ones are going to be gone. All right. There's an after party after the show at the old Marriott. There is
WrestleCon before.
Right, WrestleCon in the morning, the wrestling show at night. We're going to have, oh my God, it's going to be a ton of stuff there. Like so many things that it's going to be a day that you will probably never forget. It's a day that will go down in infamy.
Yes.
I mean that sincerely. And it's going to be great. In the interim, in the meantime, when we post the show, please click on the link that Bay's going to send with the banner. We want to get that banner hung. We want to get all the petitions signed. We only need a little, I think he said 274 more names. Come on, we got almost 800 names. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do this, please. It'll be great. It'll be a great time.
Yes.
And also, we'll be back next week. We want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your time. Don't drink too much. Don't eat too much. Have fun. And God bless you. And we will see you next week. Jeannie, I will see you on Christmas Day.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I love you. Okay. Good night.
Bye.